3 years ago, I gave up everything. I left behind a 10-year career in real estate. I left behind a very popular city. And I left behind a very familiar life back in the United States. So the big question is, was it all worth it? And in this video, I'm gonna give you my raw, honest truth. And behind the answer, I'm gonna go over some differences that I've experienced between life in Latin America and the US, which kind of ties everything together as far as whether or not it was worth it. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so let's dive right in. Skip the intro, let's just get after it. So one of the big changes or differences that you're obviously going to experience, right? This one doesn't come as a surprise, but it has to be mentioned, is you do live a better quality of life for, in my experience, about 1/3 the cost. Now, it's going to depend on the country, the city, but in general, generally speaking, yes, about 1/3 the cost. So the question becomes, would you rather spend, this is going to depend on where you live in Canada, US, UK, that's what I mean when I say the West. Would you rather spend ballpark about 3,500 a month? For me, it was closer to like 4,000, 4,500 just to survive, or would you rather pay a fraction of that in order to thrive? All right, let me give you some examples. So right now, I recently moved into a new 3-bedroom apartment in Bucaramanga, Colombia. I'll probably play some B-roll in the back here. I'm on the 18th floor. I have modern appliances. I have in-unit washer dryer. I have a 24-hour concierge. I have a gym, and I have a really nice view from my balcony. All right, I basically have plenty of space here. Probably too much space than I really need, but it was available, so I took it. And this is on Airbnb. So as you know, Airbnb is the more convenient option. Everything comes furnished, right? All the utilities, everything's included. So you're paying more of a premium, and still, I'm paying about $771 a month for this apartment. All right. Now, this same exact apartment back home in the United States would probably go for at least 3,000. I'd probably say 30. I should say 3,500 because this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. All right. This same apartment is going to go for at least, in this case, it's more than 3 times. It's like 4 or 5 times more. All right. So that's an example for you. Now, what does this actually mean? All right. And this is just, of course, with rent, which is usually our biggest expense, or if you have a house, a mortgage, right? Real estate here, super affordable. I can talk about that too. But with food, with everything, right? And I'll get into some other expenses that you won't have to worry about later in this video. But what this actually means, guys, is you don't have to grind or you don't have to work as many hours just to maintain a solid lifestyle. So I can literally, and I'm not at this stage yet because I'm 37. I want to keep working. I want to keep building. But if I wanted to, I can work much less hours, have much less stress, and still live a much better life. All right. You can imagine if your rent's only $771 a month, you don't need much more after that, right? I usually say that the magic number for most people is about 2,500, right? For most people, if you want to live like a king here in Latin America, but you can also live very well for 2,000 a month or even 1,500 a month if you really wanted to. All right. Like, because if you're living here long term, you're probably not going to be spending Airbnb prices. You'll probably be around 500 or less, right? Now you still got to pay your utilities and stuff like that, but even that's a lot more affordable too. So when you factor everything else in, depending on how active you are, your dating life, your social life, how often you eat out, where you eat out, obviously that's going to play a role as far as variables go. But you can live very well for about 1,500, 2,000. For me, that's closer to 2,500. So you can literally, like if I want to, I could work 20 hours a week and live a great life. I could work 15 hours a week if I wanted to, right? And I'm someone who's always going to be working. I don't believe in the idea of retirement. I think you should slow down, but we always need something to do. You should always be doing something. So if I really wanted to, I could semi-retire at the age of 37, live a really good life, working maybe 20 hours a week and not needing much money to live a really good life, right? But of course, depending on who you are, depending on your personality, you might want to strive for bigger things. But that's the beautiful thing is that if I ever needed to rest or take a break, right? Some of you might need a career break. I recently left an offer that was on because I was feeling burnt out. So I have taken a little bit of a break from that. So the fact that you can always, like, there's just less stress, less pressure on you to financially, right? When your expenses are about 1/3 down, which my opinion is really important, right? So if you care about lifestyle design, if you care about less stress, even just the environment that you're in, like more people are going to be more laid back. They value social, they value relationships, they value family a lot more. So it's not a hustle culture, right? If that's what you're looking for, that's what you can get in Latin America. Now that's not for everyone. Some people they do like to hustle. They do like to work hard. So you'll probably find some of those people in Dubai, right? So there's different places for different people. But if you're more the laid back person, if you want to save money, if you want to have less financial stress, right, less overhead, then this is definitely a much better option. And just coming back to the magic number of 2,500 a month, which is going to be true for most of you, if you could just find a way, if you're someone who doesn't have any remote income right now, and but when I say remote income, I mean you could be retired and her Social Security, you could have from a pension, you could have from your investments, but some of you need active income, right? Some of you might be around my age or even a little younger, or you're in your 40s or 50s, and maybe you don't have enough in retirement or 401ks or pensions or investments or any Social Security, none of that, right? So in that way, in that case, you still have the option to earn remote income, right? There's so many different online jobs, different types of businesses, different types of things you can invest in. Whatever it is that you want to pursue, figure it out, man. Figure it out, because all you need is 25, we'll say 15 to 2,500 a month to live very well or to live like a king, 2,500 or more. And it doesn't have to take long. It took me 3 months to land a remote job to where I felt confident where that's going to be consistent on a continuous basis. And that was really it. So if this is a big reason for you in the United States where you're paying way too much money for what you're getting, inflation, cost of living, every taxes, everything, right? Then just find a way to earn 2,500 a month. Put 6 months into focus and figure it out. All right. Figure it out. And if you don't figure it out in 6 months, well, guess what? You're a heck of a lot further. And now it might only take you 3 months after that. So just figure that piece out. You'll live a much better life for 1/3 the cost. All right. Here's another huge change, guys. The second one is not needing a car. Now, for some of you who might be car people, to each their own. I was never that big of a car person. I was never into, I don't know, fixing up cars or buying the nicest car. Sure, it's cool to have a nice car, but it was never like soup. It was never something that I valued was having a really nice car. So without a car, you have so much more freedom. In the US, this is really impossible because US, if you don't own a car, people think you're a loser, you're failing, you're doing something wrong, right? Everyone has a car, myself included, in the US. If I'm going to live in the US, I'm going to have a car because it's just built in, right? Everything is so spread out. To go to the grocery store, to go to the gym, to go to get coffee, to get I don't know, lunch, dinner, first date spots, whatever it is, bars, you need a car, right? And then if you want to take an Ubers are going to cost you 20, 30, 40 bucks, right? Depending on the distance. But in Latin America, not needing a car is actually a status symbol. Right? The fact that I don't own a car, it's because I live in the best neighborhoods of the entire countries and the entire cities and the entire countries, entire regions, right? You live in the best walkable locations, therefore you don't need a car, and you're seen as someone who lives in like the rich area to everyone in the entire country, right? So that's really a big difference between the US and Latin America. US, not a car, broke, poor, loser. Latin America, not having a car, rich, cool, competent, probably affluent, right? And I haven't owned a car in 3 years. All right. I live in walkable neighborhoods, like I said, where everything I need is about 5 to 15 minutes away. Cafes, groceries, stores, restaurants, first date spots, second date spots, bars, anything you need is going to be walking distance. If I ever do need to leave my zone for whatever reason, maybe excursions, or maybe I just want to go to a different restaurant outside of my zone, it's only going to be like $2, maybe $3, depending on the distance. Sometimes 150. Right. I'm someone who I work from home. Obviously, if you have remote income, back to the first part, then you're going to be someone who works from home, or maybe you like co-working spots. So just find a co-working spot. If you're living in the best walkable locations in your city, then there will be co-working spots. I'm someone who doesn't like co-working just because I have like a 2-screen setup, which I'll probably show you. And I did try the whole co-working thing when I was in Medellin, probably 3 years ago when I first started. And I just didn't like carrying my stuff everywhere. Sometimes it would rain. So I just figured I'm just going to work from home. I'm going to get my stuff done. I'm not going to worry about unplugging, plugging, all that stuff that goes into it when you deal with co-working spots. So if that's you, you definitely have that option. But I literally save thousands, guys, so thousands of dollars a year, not having a car. And more importantly, I save hours of time in my life, right? Not being in traffic, not commuting anywhere. It's really just been a game changer when it comes to your most valuable assets. Again, time, money, energy, right? Having no car equals more freedom, in my opinion. There's no car lease, there's no gas, there's no traffic, there's no car insurance, there's no shoveling snow off your windshield if you live in Boston, Massachusetts, where I'm from. It's pure freedom. And that's what it feels like to me. Not having a car is pure freedom. So 2 completely different cultures. Again, if you're someone who prefers items or cars or toys over your freedom, then that's fine. There's no judgment here. But if you're someone who does prefer more time, more energy, more money because you're saving, right? And just having everything more convenient than not having a car, I think would be a game changer for you as well. All right, here's another difference. My opinion, Latin America, you get more friendly people. Now, I think there's some factors to this because it could be because of the foreigner effect, right? You're someone who's coming from a different country. You're someone who's living in their country or visiting for an extended period of time. And that just leads to curiosity, right? So they're curious about you. Maybe they see you as more exotic. You're different from anyone else they've met. So there is that foreigner effect, but there's also the climate. I think being in warmer climate leads to warmer people, and the culture itself they're just generally more social. They value relationships more than consumerism, right? That's a big difference too between the U.S. and Latin America. So yeah, I mean, people greet each other more often. Strangers strike up conversations. A lot of Uber drivers have become friends or people that I can rely on for like advice in a new city, right? Or somebody that I could just hit up. Hey, can you go pick this person up for me? Or hey, I want to go here. Could we meet at this time? So you can make friends pretty easy here. What else do I want to say here? Just be respectful. Someone looks at you and they say hi back, or maybe start a conversation yourself. Yeah, then even like expats too. Like think about it. If you're someone who's looking to make new friends here, first off, most of your friends are probably going to be other expats because they're just going to be more like-minded, right? They're probably going to earn your type of income, which is you don't have to make a lot of income. I mentioned the $2,500 thing, but most people don't earn that. Locals that you'll meet here, most people earn the probably but I'd say between 1,000 and 1,500 a month because that gives them a good life here, like even 2,000 a month. To make new friends who you're actually going to spend a lot of time with or hang out with, they're most likely going to be other expats, right? For over locals, but you will meet some really cool locals who are doing well too. So I'm not just saying like that's it's always going to be the case. So right away, if you want to make expat friends, then you already have stuff in common. You're both from either the same country or from a different country outside of the country that you're currently living in, right? Let's say if you're Colombia, could be from Canada, US, UK, whatever. You already have stuff in common, right? You're both foreigners in a new country, and you both speak English, which a lot of places don't. They don't speak any English. I'm in Bucaramanga right now, where probably less than 10% of the people speak English. Same thing in Asuncion. Asuncion maybe a little more because there's probably more expats there. There's definitely more expats there. So speaking the same language and being foreigners, it's easier to make friends that way. All right. And even if you speak a little bit of Spanish, you're going to be appreciated for trying. It's not like, unfortunately, I have to say this, but in the US, people don't, like if you don't speak English, people are going to look down on you. It's just a fact, right? I remember working at a management company, and we'd have a lot of immigrants from different Latin American countries come. And whenever like someone didn't speak English, I remember my coworkers at the time, usually like middle-aged women. I was probably early 20s then, complaining about it. Like, they're saying, why should I have to learn Spanish? They're in my country. They should learn English, right? That was a thought process, and they would actually look down on these foreigners. I didn't like that. I never did like that, especially because I come from a Latino background. But it's not like that here. You speak English, you just try. Try to speak a little Spanish, learn it, right? Do your best, and you're going to be appreciated for it. So I like that about the Latin American people. All right, now let's talk dating, right? Masculine polarity. So femininity and traditional values are very much alive in Latin America. Now, here's what I always say. You still need to be a healthy version of yourself. All right. So if you're just looking to escape because maybe you're bad with women back home, right? Like if you're not good with women, this isn't going to be a magic pill for you, right? In fact, that probably puts you in a vulnerable position to be taken advantage of from women that aren't going to be ideal for you. I'll just put it that way. All right. So you still have to be a healthy version of yourself. What do I mean by that? Someone that you respect, right? You have to be someone that you respect, meaning you're taking care of yourself physically. You're going to the gym. You're taking care of yourself mentally, right? Maybe you journal, maybe you meditate, whatever it is. You're taking good, healthy care of yourself. You respect yourself. But by default, when you respect yourself, you take good care of yourself. You naturally respect others, and you take good care of others too, right? So it just makes you a quality person, a healthy person, in my opinion. So as long as you have that going for you, you're going to do very well here. Like I said, you're going to have the foreigner effect. This is going to give you a big edge. In some cities, it gives you more of an edge than others. But as long as you're healthy mentally and physically, then you're going to be an honest, respectful person. And many women, and here's something that I'll say because it's true. It's been my experience. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of women. A lot of women in certain countries, and I'm not going to say which countries because I don't want to speak poorly of their men, but a lot of women have been mistreated by the men in their own culture. All right. What do I mean by mistreated? Could be physical abuse, could be verbal abuse. Many of them have been lied to at the very minimum, right? Cheated on. This is kind of the norm. This is kind of, they call it a machismo culture, right? So being someone that's not from their culture, a man that's outside their culture, you are super exotic to them. You're someone who is they're interested just in that aspect. They want to get to learn how un extranjero, they call them extranjeros, right? What is he like? Is he different from the men in my country? Um, so as I always say, just be honest with the women, be a good person, and that's going to go a long way here, more so than you probably think it would. And obviously, if you're in the U.S., this holds true too, right? You should become the best version of yourself, be a healthy version of yourself, and you'll stand out more, right? Just naturally speaking. But I think that in Latin America, you'll stand out more than you would there than you do in the United States, and that's just a fact, right? Because of the foreigner effect, because of the low level of the bar is set pretty low, to be honest with you, in certain countries. So you don't have to be this, I don't know, this amazing, incredible man, right? Hopefully you are. Hopefully you are that best version of yourself. Never try not to compare yourself to others. Just compare yourself to yourself. But the bar is set pretty low in a lot of places in Latin America versus in the US. So I'll just put it that way. So for that reason, you will notice a difference in the polarity between feminine energy, seeking masculine energy, and them taking care of you in a way that maybe is not the culture in your country. All right, I'll say it that way. So another shift that I've seen changes between Latin America and the US is that Latin America is actually on the rise. All right. And United States, Canada, Western culture is on the decline. And I don't know if that's opinion anymore. I think that's just fact, right? I mean, we could probably agree that, like in the United States in the 1950s, people had a lot more optimism. Middle class was growing, things were booming. You could support an entire family on just one income from a normal job. You could have like a 3 to 5 children, a wife, a house, a reasonable mortgage, and you knew that your house was going to increase in value over the next 30, 50 years. It was probably going to be your number one asset. Back in the 1950s, put 1960s, 70s maybe in there too. And now that same house is going for, who knows, 20, 30 times more. I think of Boston, Massachusetts. Imagine buying a 3-family in Boston, Massachusetts in the 1950s. That same 3-family anywhere in Boston, Massachusetts is going to be worth probably $2 to $3 million. Okay. We'll say 1.5 to be safe. It's probably a 20 to 30x return on that investment. All right. So obviously that's super expensive. Inflation is crazy. Taxes are crazy. Cost of living are crazy. Who can afford to pay a 3-family? It usually, and I know this because I worked in real estate for 10 years in Boston, it's usually foreign money. It's like Chinese or Russian money wanting a safe investment because Boston is always going to have good jobs, hospitals, schools. So they pay this super small cap rate. It's not that great of an investment. You can get like better investments in like the Midwest or other places. I'm not going to go into detail there. But normal people who are from that state or from that city can't afford the assets in their own cities, right? This is becoming the norm now in the US. Whereas in Latin America, that's how it is right now. I look at, and I'm kind of reluctant to share this, but I look at places like Paraguay, right? Like even the epicenter of the areas like the Villa Mora or the Carmelitas or the Las Lomas, that's getting a little more expensive now. It's still super affordable, but compared to, the United States. But if you just go a little bit outside of that area, like a tier 2 area, like a Luque or like Fernando de la Mora, those places are going to be going up. All right. So those places now, you could probably get a good spot for maybe like 50,000, 70,000, a good spot that you just know that in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that's going to be worth, who knows, maybe $1 million or more, just like what happened in Boston and every other freaking major city in the United States, right? So I feel like that's where Paraguay is. That's where Colombia is. That's where a lot of countries in Latin America, they're on the rise. And it's super exciting to be part of that, in my opinion. It gives you like a new energy, a new vibe. Like, things are going up versus they're going down, right? So that's the feeling that I get. That's what I mean by the rise of Latam. When I say Latam, by the way, it means Latin America, for those of you who might be newer to the channel. Also, in the U.S., it feels like the culture or just the sentiment, a lot of complaining. Obviously, the political divide, right? If you're on the right, if you're on the left, really doesn't matter. You're gonna hate each other for the most part. Is a huge divide there. I remember speaking to someone on an offer that I was on, and they felt unsafe because they lived in an area that was more right and they were more left, and they felt unsafe just for that one reason. It's crazy. Safety is becoming an issue in the US. Homelessness is becoming an issue. What's interesting is that whenever I go back to Boston, I see more homelessness there than I do here. Okay, so that's one thing too. Obviously, the United States is a very consumerist country. Keeping up with the Joneses is still a thing in the suburbs. Buying Rolexes, watches, nice cars, right? Nice things, big TVs, all that stuff is what people value in the United States. And honestly, I want no part of any of that. So because of those reasons, I've actually lived a much simpler, freer, more abundant life, not needing those things, being part of a culture that doesn't really value those things either. So that's another big difference. All right, so final take. Was it all worth it now that I've been living here for 3 years with the occasional visit back to the United States to see my family and some friends? Look, my stress is down, my freedom is up, my quality of life is higher, happiness is higher for all these reasons right here. I need less. I don't need to own more things. I live better for less. I move a lot more, meaning physically, because I'm in walkable locations. I'm always moving. I'm healthier. I have more time to do things like working out consistently, like running at least once a week, going on excursions whenever I want, right? Now, look, these are big ticket items that I'm talking about here. Stress being down, freedom being up, quality of life, happiness. These are the real big ticket items, all right? This isn't nicer car, TV, nicer house, things, right? Items. I don't care about that stuff. I care about the big ticket items, right? These things right here. And look, I'm not saying that this is for everyone, because maybe you do like having a Lamborghini or a really nice watch, right? A Rolex. Maybe Dubai is more for you, right? And in that sense, and respect, as long as you know yourself, as long as you know the type of place that's ideal for you. Latin America is really not about those expensive things. Like, you probably will never see anyone in a Ferrari where I'm at. I just haven't seen one. Some places in Mexico, yeah, you will see that. So maybe check out Mexico for you. But look, if you've been feeling the pull, if you have a curiosity, if you're considering leaving your country, if you want lower cost of living, if you want a better dating life, if you want less stress, if you want more freedom, more happiness, you owe it to yourself to find out. All right. I'm so glad that I made that leap. Was it worth it? Of course it was. And I've been here for 3 years. I'll be here for at least another 3 years. I'll probably be here for the rest of my life. All right. And I've been exploring enough to where I think I found maybe 2 or 3 cities that I can rotate around, and really just live out the rest of my life in those particular areas. And if anything were to change, I'm always flexible. I'm always open to new cities, new countries, and seeing which ones go up, which ones go down, right? That sort of thing. But it's been a fun ride. It's been a really fun ride. It's been the single best decision that I've made in my life. Factor that in, and yeah. So I hope that video was helpful for you guys. Again, just to recap, was it worth it? 100% yes. Single best decision I made in my life. I don't regret anything. Has it been perfect? Of course not. There's been a lot of things I've had to learn, some struggles, some things I've had to acclimate to, some cultural differences that I've had to acclimate to, but it's been worth it 100%. Look, if you want my help with this stuff, I'm actually in the process of creating something to help people leave their Western country and rebuild a new life here in Latin America. So if that sounds interesting to you, check out my next video or check out my post in the YouTube community. I'm probably gonna start there once I do open it up. It might be in the next few weeks or so. So just be on the lookout. And as always, thanks for watching, and look out for the next one.